Hey everybody, today I'm adding greeblies to the BD1 droid. I meant to do this in the last video, but honestly I had some trouble getting a hold of the greeblies that I needed. Can I just really quick...
You're not my supervisor!
Greeblies are the little machine doodads on sci-fi props and spaceships. In my opinion, the greeblies are why we're able to suspend our disbelief. See, in real life, I have to change the batteries so often on some of my film equipment that I just never put the casing back. And in Star Wars, you see a lot of machinery that has to be serviced so often that the panels never get put back, such as on the Y-Wing. We see that there's a support system for the technology. We don't necessarily understand how it works, but we see that it exists, so we believe the crazy action that it's performing. The first thing I'm doing is replacing this awful grate. Originally, I was working off an Instagram video as my reference material, but see, Instagram is technically standard definition, which is crazy. 2019, come on, get some HD in there. So that was my reference material, and then an hour after I published my video, Alex and Molly over at Stars Explained posted this incredible high-resolution fly-around of the only other BD1 model in existence sanctioned by Lucasfilm and everything, which, thank you guys. This isn't a dig against you, but the higher resolution footage revealed that I was completely wrong. It's not like a totally non-uniform piece of shrapnel. It's more like a computer grade. And what I had replicated in physicality was motion blur from a grainy video. So thanks guys. Alex is just a walking Star Wars database. I don't know why I don't consult him before every Star Wars build that I do. Get it together, Jake. So yeah, let's get that out of there. I'm actually gonna draw the red details on with marker before I deal with the grate. And I replaced the Wally goggle visor from the previous video because I cut too dramatic of an angle onto the foam and there wasn't enough space for the red panel. So I fixed that. Oh, by the way, that was only possible because I used hot glue, not contact cement, because I was able to just heat it up with the heat gun. You know, heated it up, it reactivated the glue, I ripped off the visor, made a new one, put it back on there, and everything's fantastic. I'm not trying to create a prop maker argument. I'm literally saying there's different reasons why you would use different glues, but it's inevitable. I can't escape it. I can't escape the prop trolls. Okay, so for this new grade, I actually went out and looked for a piece of metal in thrift stores that fitted what I wanted. I came up with this option, which is way too small, and this one, which is slightly too big, just barely too big, and I ended up going with slightly too big, and that's how he died. And then he haunted other prop makers. These are the props I forged in life. I made them link by link and yard by yard. Does anybody get my references? I traced the old grate on the metal and cut it out with tin snips. I finally got it out of there. I trimmed it a bit more and then squashed it flat again in my bench vise. I taped up the edges to prevent light leak. I painted it flat black, popped it in there, gave it a test. Sweet. Not quite perfect, but infinitely better than what I did earlier with the cardboard. Now that I have the most egregious of inaccuracies taken care of, I can move on to adding the rest of the details. Also, I can sleep at night without that screaming at me. It's the beating of that insidious heart. God, why do I have Victorian horror stories stuck in my head right now? All these panels that I'm cutting right now are just regular 2mm craft foam from Michaels, or any hobby shop really. I'm attaching them with hot glue because none of these are load-bearing seams. Look at me using architecture terms like I work construction. I don't work construction. Well, actually I did technically work construction. I had legitimate calluses for like a minute. After all the panels were attached, I heat treated them very lightly. That acts as a poor man's paint seal, and I used my acrylic to cover all the dull aluminum parts. And okay, the head's done. Now I can set that to dry. These are, I don't know, they look like heat sinks, and they go on the back. There's 4 of them. They're like a slanted L. Ironically, a Star Trek L. Box cutters are better for this. I want to show kids that might be watching that you can do this with a pair of scissors. And once you've done that first project, you'll show your parents that it's actually what you're into. You're not going to forget about it after a couple weeks. Because it could take you a couple weeks to do the first project. And they'll go, okay, yeah, maybe we'll buy him a Dremel and a box cutter. You should always cut away from you. I'm making the larger greeblies out of scrap foam bits, just for some consistency, and I cut in all the little line details with a knife, heat treating them to get them to expand a little. So this, as much as I want this to be symmetrical and accurate, it's just not gonna be. Movie props aren't necessarily accurate. When you see them in museums, they're usually somewhat underwhelming because, you know, on a movie set, it's always make it as fast as possible and make sure it looks good on camera at this distance, and if it doesn't, then they just don't use that shot. These names scrolling by right now, they're my patron supporters, without whom this show would not be possible at all. I got a few new ones from the previous video, so now I can afford to replace equipment that wears out, so thank you immensely. Ideally, I would get to the point where I could afford more elaborate shop equipment so that I could show you more legitimate techniques and higher quality builds, in addition to more jokes and things. I know that a lot of people are, I wouldn't say up in arms, but definitely noticing the change in format. All that is it's gotten too expensive to create a custom materials list every time I use a new material. And the same with the live intro and outros. So any amount of support, I certainly appreciate. And yeah, back to the build, which we're already in the build. All right, so now we can move on to the cool greeblies. I cut notches for compartments in the sides of the legs. This would have been about 1,000 times easier to cut before I attached it, but at a certain point, I just, in order to get the video out on time, I had to make the call to just build the thing and do the greeblies later, which saved me time in the present, but it's costing me time now. So I don't know, something to think about if you're not on a compressed timetable, or if you are on a compressed timetable. I feel like a dentist. Also attached this white foam detail that I missed in the last video. Who needs shims when you have a yardstick? I have to build these weird detailed pneumatic pistons for the legs, so I mixed and matched sprues and spare parts and random hardware until I found something that I was happy with, and then made sure that I could duplicate that on both sides. Which in retrospect, I don't really know why I was so concerned with that, because the whole thing with Star Wars is things are mismatched because they wear out. If I didn't have the right parts, I could say, oh, well, the one on the left side wore out and it had to be replaced, but the droid lasted for a decade, so the old model was phased out by then, and it had to be upgraded with a newer variant. And again, that's why we believe in Star Wars, because this happens in reality. If anyone out there has ever had to change a RAV4 license plate running light, then yeah, you're well aware, if there's anyone who actually gets that. Does anybody? Is that too specific? What was I doing? Oh right, feeding my maker addiction. That's what I was doing. The parts I used were various sized washers, a spring, part of a marker, and rocket engines from the Pilgrim Observer model kit. Yeah, I was that kid growing up. I put those over a wooden skewer and painted them silver. Then I skewered them into this scrap foam and let them sit to dry. Oh no! I've also got a few other projects going on here. I used shorter lengths of skewers to go into the alcoves that I cut earlier into the side of the leg. These are all offcuts from the DRD build. Wait, is that even out yet? No, it's not. Well, the footage is shot, so sound off if you want to see that. Oh, also sound off if your vehicle of choice is a space whale. Okay, my references are for 8 people at a time. The area behind the long alcove is going to be semi-visible, so before I put that dowel in, I glued in some black craft foam and a couple greeblies. That's paintbrush bristle holder. In order to get it in there, it's metal, it hurts. But hey, look, now it's there, and there's a little bit more detail. There's a paper clip. It's a thicker gauge than a resistor, so it can actually hold together while I'm pressing it in there. I think I didn't have that problem in the last one because it was a really thick resistor. Or is that a capacitor? No, that's a resistor. By now the pistons are dry, so I went ahead and attached those. This is being held on entirely with tension. That's a paper clip, and up there it's a spike that is stabbed into the foam. But in order for that to work, I discovered I have to cut a trench in there. And normally I'd use the rotary tool, but it has a habit of, you know, acting like a wheel that destroys your product. You put it down meaning to go there, and it'll go whoop and just completely destroy everything from the side. So I'm cutting the trench first, and if that's not enough, then I'll go back in the rotary tool. Oh, you know what? I neglected to mention that I also use this. A little A little bit overkill. I actually like that. That's better. That is better than all of the other greeblies on this thing so far. Moving down the shin parts, I'm using these plates from an old Erector set to mount the rest of the greeblies onto. I don't have the exact ones they used in the game version, so I'm trying to get the general shapes right. That's where the bar is for me. I'm sure it's gonna change once we get better photos, but this is already 20% better than, I would argue 50% better than a blank white surface. So I'm gonna cover some more stuff up similarly to what's there. Okay, so this wire hasn't been used in a while. This box just disintegrated. Miller, you asshole. That's an expanse joke. I jury rigged the same wire arrangement that I'm seeing in the playback and attached them to the plates with more cut up paper clips. And then I proceeded to attach more random details, but ones that I could duplicate. Okay, so someone on Thingiverse actually designed and put out there the universal greeblie, which is fantastic because now I don't have to hunt down an Anzio Annie kit. It saves me so much trouble. So I 3D printed a whole bunch of those and buried one on each leg just as a nod to the source material. I don't know that it's actually on the robot, but that's just for me. So I can't do my greeblies exactly the same way because, well, first of all, I can't see it too clearly, but also because I added an extra joint that isn't actually on the model. And the reason that I did that is to accommodate the crazy Gumby motions that BD1 makes when it's walking around in the video game, when it's being animated to walk in a way that it was not designed to actually function in. I don't want something that's obviously EVA foam there, though, so I painted it with acrylic silver. While that's drying, I re-rigged the puppeteering rods, and there you have it, a much less plain-looking robot. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, feel free to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified. I don't upload every day, so it's easy to miss stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you later.
Thank you.